Abs are a very important muscle area for building a great body. Even if you don't have much muscle, just having abs alone can make your body look pretty good enough, and clearly defined washboard abs are considered the symbol of male sexiness. Everyone is super interested in abs when they first start working out. I mean, my ultimate fitness goal when I was starting out was to get a bicep vein and washboard abs. But the funny thing is, the longer people train, the more often they just put off ab training or just don't do it at all. I, for example, do absolutely no ab workouts except for the time I spend sitting on the toilet every morning. False information rampant on the internet also plays a role. How to lose belly fat in 20 minutes, just follow along kind of videos, and all sorts of flashy but completely useless bizarre movements make it hard to find proper information on ab training. I'm a pharmacist and a physical trainer based on Seoul, South Korea, and in this video I'll properly explain how to do ab training. I'm going to use all objective scientific evidence to give you the most systematic and thorough guide available on the internet. Let's get started. The biggest mistake people make when doing ab workouts is doing super low weight, ultra high rep exercises at a very low intensity. While other muscle groups are trained with heavy weights, full range of motion, and close to failure, for some reason ab workouts are often just lying on the floor, having ultra high rep muscle spasms, and hoping somehow you grow abs. We have to realize that abs are muscles just like any other muscle. If effective hypertrophy training involves using appropriate weights, emphasizing full range of motion with the stretch, and going close to failure, the same standards must apply to ab training as well. So rather than doing 100 crunches or 200 core twists as popularized online, it is a much better choice to do weighted sit-ups, heavy ab machine exercises, or cable crunches. Of course, if your abs are so weak that you can reach failure with just 10 bodyweight sit-ups, then that's fine. But for those with some training experiences, it's very unlikely you'll get 100% results from bodyweight only training. Now, before looking at the actual workout method, let's briefly go over the anatomy. Our core is made up of three main muscle groups: the thick rectus abdominis that forms the six-pack, the internal and external obliques located on the side of your torso, and the transverse abdominis that maintains intra-abdominal pressure in exercises like the squat and the deadlift. To have clearly visible abs, you must properly train the rectus abdominis. The main function of the rectus abdominis is spinal flexion, in other words, bending the torso. Therefore, the best ab exercises are those where the spine flexes and extends against resistance. We also have to take note that it is not just the hip joint bending and straightening. The actual spine itself has to bend and extend, just like a cat would. Since hip flexion involves other muscles like the rectus femoris, you should really check during your ab exercises if you're actually flexing and extending your spine instead of just moving your hip joint. Moving on to the specifics of the six-pack. Depending on the type of movement, you can either emphasize your upper abs or the lower abs. According to a 2000 EMG study from Subversity, the upper abs showed high activation in movements like sit-ups where the upper spine bends, while the lower abs showed high activation in movements like leg raises where the lower spine bends. A very important tip when doing ab exercises is to choose movements that allows the spine to extend beyond the straight neutral line so the abs can be maximally stretched, like the ab crunch machine. It is pretty interesting that most ab exercises, including sit-ups, do not extend the spine beyond this neutral position, but that's not the optimal way to train. Just like how we don't train biceps with a shortened range of motion, only doing shortened partials, and also include the stretch position, ab exercises should also include the stretch range of motion. But sit-ups, planks, ab rollouts, almost all ab exercises exclude this stretch range of motion and only extends until the spine is neutral. So I strongly encourage you to use exercises like the machine crunch where the spine can extend beyond the neutral. Cable crunches are also not a bad option. If the gym floor is dirty, maybe it could be a problem. But since spinal flexion occurs well and the weight can be adjusted, it's a good exercise. One downside is that it leaves out the stretch and overly emphasizes the contraction. When the abs are contracted, it's the hardest, but when the torso is extended and the abs are stretched, you can see that there's almost no resistance. So it's not a perfect 100-point exercise, but because most ab exercises already emphasize the stretch part of the movement, like the decline sit-up, planks, and ab rollouts, even though cable crunches emphasize the contracted part of the motion, in terms of variety, it is still not a bad option to include in your arsenal. Now let's move on to planks and ab rollouts. These movements do not involve spinal flexion or extension, but just performs an isometric hold to support your body weight. It's like holding a dumbbell instead of of doing a bicep curl. It is an isometric. And I'm not saying that isometrics are bad for muscle growth. According to 2 studies, isometric exercises performed in a stretched state can lead to hypertrophy similar to a full range of motion training. However, it is very important to differentiate isometrics done at a shorter muscle length position and an isometric done in a longer muscle length position. So are planks and ab rollouts isometrics at a longer muscle length position? Well, kind of, but not really. When we do a plank, our spine is neutral, so the abs are pretty stretched but not maximally stretched. The spine can bend beyond the neutral to additionally stretch the abs. So we can kind of say the plank is a mid to long length isometric, and so can't say for certain whether it is as good as a full range of motion training. And also the intensity during a plank is so low, you could be holding it all day before reaching failure. Therefore, unless your abs are so weak that just doing 30 seconds of plank completely wrecks your abs, I don't think there's any need to bother with bodyweight planks, unless you're a beginner. What about the ab rollout? At first glance, it looks like you're moving, so you might think that it is a full range of motion exercise. But in fact, when you take a closer look, the spine actually stays neutral throughout the movement. No flexion or extension occurs, so the ab rollout is also closer to a simple isometric hold. However, the intensity of the movement is on a whole different level from the plank. I've had many male clients who couldn't even do one proper ab rollout, and amongst women, I've rarely seen anyone able to do one properly. So even though it's an isometric in a mid to lengthened range position, the very high intensity makes it a decent ab exercise. And also, if you're really splitting hairs, there is some spinal flexion occurring at the end range of motion. So apart from intensity, the ab rollout is still a better option than the plank. Now let's look at the internal and external obliques. The obliques are involved in side bending of the spine and also twisting of the torso. As an oblique exercise, lying Russian twists are not ideal. They do somewhat stimulate the obliques, but the intensity is too low, and to reach failure, you have to do extremely high rep sets. And since the whole body shakes and the movement is unstable, it may not be great for pure hypertrophy. Also, if we take a look at where the resistance is actually coming from, it actually comes from front to back, not side to side. Most of the real work is being done by the rectus abdominis for spinal flexion isometric, and the obliques may not be under full overload during their intended side motion. It will be much better to do exercises where the resistance is applied laterally from the start. For example, you can take a look at the cable wood chopper. The movement is stable and the resistance comes directly from the side, so you can target the obliques better. One downside is that your weaker shoulders and arms can limit the force of the stronger core, so your arms and shoulders may reach failure before your core does. So I think the rotary torso machine is the best oblique exercise. It is easy and stable, so you can place 100% overload on the obliques, making it most effective for hypertrophy. Side bending of the spine can be very effectively done with the dumbbell side bend. Hold the dumbbell or kettlebell in one hand, bend your torso side to side, and you can effectively target one of the obliques' function, lateral flexion of the spine. Lastly, we have the transverse abdominis. Since it is used to hold intra-abdominal pressure, it is already pretty much stimulated in a lot of compound movements like squats and deadlifts. So I don't think there is a need to invest extra time training it directly. So here you have it. This is how to train abs, a thorough guide A to Z. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be honored if you can like and subscribe.